Okay, question 14, doing some probability. So, we are told the probability of winning a game is 7 out of 10. Okay. Which expression represents the probability of winning 2 consecutive games? Now, that consecutive is what's important here. So in probability, okay, whenever you want consecutive events, so consecutive things to happen, and now consecutive just means one after the other. So like if I was to throw a bullseye, and then you want to see what the probability is of me throwing a bullseye again, okay, what we do is we grab that probability and we times it by the next probability. So in this case, if my bullseyes, and they're both 7 out of 10, for example, I'd times it by itself. If it was something different, if it was probability of me throwing a bullseye and then probability of me hitting the board, okay, clearly that's more likely, and you times those probabilities together. Okay, so for this question, I have the probability of 7 out of 10. To win the next game, there's no more information here. There's nothing that tells me once I win one, my probability changes. It's not like the number of games, the number of players changes. It's going to be the same probability. So it should be 7 over 10 times 7 over 10. If it was wanting to be a little bit trickier, maybe it has something like you're picking marbles out of a bag and you start with 7 over 10. But then once you've picked one out, okay, so let's say you start with 7 over 10 and you grabbed your red marble, then the probability of grabbing a red one again, well, now there's only 6 red left and there's only 9 marbles left in the bag. So that's where all these other answers come from, because if we're talking about things that depend or change, then you need to rework out that probability. Okay, so question 15, what amount must be invested now at 4% per annum? Now I see 4%, I'm going to straight away write that as a decimal, so 0.04. If you're not sure how to do that, you write 4 in your calculator, divide by 100. That's what percent means, divide 100. It is compounded quarterly. Now hopefully in your brain you hear the word compounded and you go ding 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 ding, you go to your reference sheet. Okay, we have one finance formula on our reference sheet, one, and it is the future value equals present value 1 plus the rate to the power of n. Okay, that's the one we've got. So if we're talking about compounding at any point, that's the icky one where we use a formula. So we go to our reference sheet, we grab this. Okay, so we'll go back to the question. Compounded quarterly, so that in 5 years it will have grown to $60,000. Okay, now there's actually a few things going on with this question. The first thing that I'd really want to cover is that this interest is happening quarterly. We need to figure out, well, how many quarters are there in a year? And quarter, quad bike, think of words that start with the Q, that's going to be 4. So what we need to do is look at our percentage and say, well, that's 4% per year. So to figure out what that is per quarter, I need to divide that by 4. Okay, to color code it, just so it's really, really, really clear, this is how many times it's going to compound, and that is what we are dividing by. Okay, so you should get 0.01 is our interest rate per quarter. The other thing that needs to change is our 5 years. Okay, we're now talking about, well, how many quarters are there in 5 years? So we're going to grab our 5 and we're going to times that by 4 to say, okay, well, there's 4 quarters in 1 year, so in 5 years I should have 20 quarters. Seems like a lot of work, and we're almost done. The trick here is that we're asked to find what we're going to invest now, which is our present value, to get $60,000, which is our future value. So this question's actually going backwards. So you could rearrange it at the end once you realize that, but a quick trick to get straight into it is to say, right, well, I want to actually get this present value bit on its own, okay, by getting rid of everything else. Now you can see it's present value times everything else. So to get rid of all that, I'm going to divide. So I should get present value equals the future value divided by all of that. Okay. From there, I can just chuck in all of my numbers that I found. So my 60,000 over 1 plus 0.01 to the power of 20. Pop that into your calculator and you will get your answer.